Hi, this is Joyce Brandon. I wanted to talk to you a little bit today about the different kinds of brushes that we use when we're painting. I have here a sample of 4 of my favorite brushes that I use most often when creating my oil portraits. We'll start with our flat. This brush, as you can see, has bristles that are pinched into a flat, long rectangle at the end. And from the side profile, you can see that you have a thin surface to work with. This brush is excellent for laying down large patches of color, for making broad strokes in your painting, and it's also good for blending colors. Because the bristles are softer, it's not going to create such obvious brush strokes as some of your other brushes would create. Now we'll compare this to our next brush, the Bright. The Bright and the Flat have similar rectangular shaped bristles, but if you compare them, you can see that the Bright is much shorter in length of bristle compared to the Flat. Your Bright also has a narrow profile, but with the shorter length, the bristles are less flexible. You can load this brush up with a lot of paint, and this is an excellent brush for those of you who want to create paintings with that thick, obvious brush stroke look to it. Next, we have a Filbert. Again, in comparison with our Flat, they're very similar, but the ends of the bristles on the Filbert are curved like the end of your fingernail. This is a very nice brush. It's one of my favorite brushes to use. It's got soft edges that blend colors very well, but you can also use it in small areas. Even a large brush like this can be used in small areas of your painting. Finally, of my 4 favorite brushes, we have the Round. This has a round end where the bristles connect to the paintbrush. That's called the ferrule. And it comes to a nice point. So this brush is not excellent for filling in large areas or anything like that, but it is wonderful for detail work, for lines, and for any places where you might want to avoid picking up a lot of your paint that you've laid down. Now there are a couple of other brushes that I don't use very often, but that I thought I would show you an example of. This is a fan brush. If you've ever watched Bob Ross make some paintings on the TV, he frequently uses this to make the branches and leaves in his trees and bushes. And finally, this long, very tapered brush is a round, but it's a specialized round called a script brush. This is nice for making very fine lines and for signing your name. Back to the original 4 brushes. These brushes are all made with bristles at the end. These are firm, natural hairs, usually from boar. They're very sturdy and they hold a lot of paint because they're natural fibers. Just like human hairs, they have small scales which can capture the pigment, so you can get a nice rich layer of color when you use them. I really like bristle brushes when working with oils because they don't give way to the weight of your paint. But they're not the only type of brush available. This is an example of a Bright made with synthetic fibers. These are man-made fibers. They're very smooth. And one of the benefits to having man-made fibers is, first, they're less expensive, and second, they hold up better over time because it's easier to clean the bristles. They're very smooth. They don't have the natural scales that a bristle brush would have, and so it's much easier to clean the paint out of them, which in turn makes them last longer. Now, the script brush that I showed you earlier is also made of synthetic fibers. However, you can get sable brushes that are made with natural sable. There's also camel hair brushes and a variety of other natural fibers. These bristles are much more flexible, and I don't often use a sable, especially natural sable, when using my oil paints because they tend to not hold up to the weight of the heavy oils. But watercolor painting, sables are perfect, wonderful brushes to use with that, or if you're using thinned oil paint or thinned acrylic. That pretty much covers the paint brushes that I commonly use in my day-to-day painting. And so next I thought I would give you a quick demonstration of each of the brushes being used in a painting. Alright, so I'm using a recycled canvas that I've made a little sketch on of my dog Padme's pretty green eye. That's what we're going to be painting today. I've loaded my bright. This is a number 12 bright with some paint that I'm going to use for the background. And now I'm going to get to work. Next, I'm using a synthetic number 12 Filbert. This one's not a new brush, so the profile is not quite as smooth as you would have expected from a brand new brush, but this should work quite well. I'm going to lay in the color around her eye. Next, I'm going to be using a size 1 Filbert brush to work on the iris and the pupil. And now I'm going to be using the size 2 small round synthetic sable to do the fine little details around the eye. So here we have a quick study of Padme's pretty green eye using a variety of different brushes and oil paint. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope to talk to you again soon.